Well, 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 if it isn't another day ending in Y and another Labour politician in hot water. But this time, it's not just any old backbencher caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Oh no, this is Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary herself, potentially facing the political equivalent of AP 45 delivery from her own boss. And the reason? A migrant returns deal so spectacularly botched that it makes a post office scandal look like a masterclass in public administration. Buckle up, because what happened on day one of Labour's grand migration plan is so absurd, you'll think I'm reading from a Monty Python script. Spoiler alert, I'm not. Picture this. You're Keir Starmer, sitting in number 10, probably sipping his morning oat milk latte, thinking, finally, we got this migration thing sorted. Then your phone rings. It's not good news. In fact, it's a kind of news that makes you question whether you should have stayed in human rights law where the only thing that could embarrass you was losing a case, not watching your Home Secretary's flagship policy implode faster than a soufflé in a thunderstorm. Because here's what actually happened when Cooper's much-vaunted new migrant returns deal went live. The French, bless their hearts, decided to interpret cooperation as let's give the Brits a front-row seat to our own incompetence. Within 30 minutes, 30 bloody minutes, of the deal being operational, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp and reporters from the Daily Express witnessed not one, but two French boats essentially playing Uber for migrants trying to reach British shores. I kid you not, the French Navy was literally escorting dinghies across the channel like they were providing a premium concierge service. But wait, it gets better. After shepherding these boats into British waters like some sort of aquatic travel agent, the French captain had the absolute audacity, and I mean this in the most British way possible, to radio the UK Border Force and ask for their 60 life jackets back. 60 life jackets. Because apparently, they wanted to be ready for the next batch of customers later that day. You genuinely couldn't make this stuff up if you tried. Now, Chris Philp, who's seen more political disasters than a Westminster janitor, delivered what can only be described as a verbal equivalent of a knockout punch. He called it a people-smuggling conveyor belt that become a round trip paid for by British taxpayers. Ouch! That's the kind of soundbite that haunts Home Secretaries in their sleep. But he wasn't done. Philp went on to describe witnessing the French handing over 2 boatloads of illegal migrants while Border Force provided a taxi service back to the UK. On day one, day bloody one of Labour's grand plan, the optics here are so catastrophically bad that even a spin doctor with the creative genius of Alistair Campbell would throw in the towel and suggest a career change. This wasn't just a policy hiccup. This was a full-blown, televised demonstration of governmental incompetence broadcast live across the channel like some sort of administrative reality TV show nobody asked for. And where was Yvette Cooper during this maritime comedy of errors? Well, she was doing what politicians do best when their policies explode in their faces, refusing to give straight answers and hiding behind operational security concerns. When pressed for details about how many migrants were detained under her shiny new returns deal, Cooper channeled her inner Theresa May and delivered a masterclass in political waffle. "We will provide regular updates," she said, which in political speak translates to "we'll tell you when we figured out how to spin this disaster." She confirmed that the first migrant were in detention and transfers were underway, but wouldn't provide numbers because, apparently, giving actual data might help criminal gangs exploit the situation. Because clearly, the criminal gangs watching French naval vessels escort migrants across the channel weren't getting enough operational intelligence from that little display. Cooper's refusal to provide concrete figures isn't just politically tone-deaf, it's strategically moronic. Here you have a Home Secretary whose flagship policy has just been publicly humiliated by the French Navy, and instead of coming out swinging with data to show it's working, she's playing hide-and-seek with basic statistics. It's like announcing you've solved homelessness and then refusing to say how many people you've housed because it might compromise your operational effectiveness. The timing of this debacle couldn't be worse for Starmer's government. Labour swept into power promising competence after years of conservative chaos, positioning themselves as the adults in the room who could actually get things done. But watching your Home Secretary's migration deal turn into a Franco-British farce on its literal first day doesn't exactly scream safe hands on the tiller, does it? And this isn't just about political embarrassment, though there's plenty of that to go around. This is about the fundamental credibility of Labour's approach to one of the most politically sensitive issues facing the country. Migration has been a vote winner and vote loser for governments across Europe, And Cooper's botched rollout has just handed the Conservative opposition a gift-wrap attack line that'll keep giving until the next election. The Conservative response has been predictably savage, but also depressingly effective. When your political opponents can point to actual footage of your policy failing in real time, complete with French naval officers asking for their life jackets back, you move beyond normal political criticism into the realm of undeniable farce. This is the kind of story that gets remembered, that gets repeated, that becomes part of political folklore. What makes this even more delicious from a political drama perspective is a personal angle. Cooper isn't just any Home Secretary. She's married to Ed Balls, the former Shadow Chancellor who famously became a Strictly Come Dancing sensation after losing his parliamentary seat. The irony of Cooper potentially following her husband out of frontline politics, albeit for very different reasons, hasn't been lost on Westminster watchers. Though I suspect Ed's departure were considerably more graceful, at least his Gangnam style didn't embarrass the entire government. The pressure on Cooper from within Labour ranks is reportedly intense, with backbench MPs privately expressing concern about the damage this debacle could do to the party's credibility on law and order issues. When your own side starts briefing against you to journalists, you know your position is becoming untenable. Politics is a brutal business, but it's especially brutal when your failures are broadcast live across international waters. Starmer now faces a classic prime ministerial dilemma: stand by his Home Secretary and risk further association with his policy disaster, or cut Cooper loose and admit that his government's flagship migration policy was fundamentally flawed from day one. Neither option is particularly appealing, but in politics, sometimes you have to choose between bad and worse. The broader implications for Labour's migration strategy are potentially catastrophic. If this is how the returns deal performs when everyone's watching on day one, what's it going to look like in 6 months when the media attention has died down and the operational reality sets in? Cooper's promise that no one should be making this journey rings rather hollow when French naval vessels are literally facilitating the journey under the noses of British authorities. What's particularly galling about this whole affair is the sheer preventability of it. This wasn't some unforeseen crisis or external shock. This was a policy implementation so poorly planned and executed that it failed within hours of going live. That's not bad luck. That's bad government. And in the unforgiving world of British politics, bad government tends to have consequences. The French, for their part, seem blissfully unaware that they just torpedoed a bilateral agreement that took months to negotiate. Or perhaps they are very aware and simply don't care. Either way, their casual approach to cooperation has left Cooper looking like she's been outmaneuvered by allies who treat international agreements like suggestions rather than commitments. As this story develops, the pressure on both Cooper and Starmer will only intensify. Opposition MPs will demand statements, journalists will dig deeper, and the Conservative Party will weaponize every detail of this fiasco for maximum political damage. In the brutal arithmetic of Westminster politics, Home Secretaries who become liabilities tend not to last very long, regardless of their previous achievements or personal relationships with the Prime Minister. So there you have it, a masterclass in how to turn a policy victory into a political disaster in under 30 minutes. Cooper's position hangs by a thread. Starmer's competence narrative has taken a massive hit, and somewhere in France, naval officers are probably still chuckling about those 60 life jackets they got back. In British politics, sometimes the most damaging scandals aren't about corruption or misconduct. They're about simple, undeniable incompetence broadcast live for all to see. Thanks for watching UK Pancakes, and I'll see you in the next one where we'll probably be discussing Cooper's replacement. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead of the Westminster chaos, because at this rate, there's going to be plenty more where this came from.